Welcome to Badger Beer Report, and I am here with Garth from Garth's Brew Bar in Madison, Wisconsin. What is going on, Garth? How you doing?
Hey, glad to be here.
Yeah, a lot. We're in a volatile time, so I'm just gonna jump in. Spring is a weird time in Wisconsin. It's 60 degrees one day and sunny, snowing the next, and
Mhm.
we literally the day that we're taping, it is thunderstorming, and there is a tornado watch in Dane County. So, as a
Yep.
cicerone, how do you curate a tap list that handles that that volatility
Yeah.
as far as like one day being warm, one day being cold? Is there a Swiss Army knife style that works for both, or what is the thinking on this one?
Yeah, this one is all over the place. There's not a solid Swiss Army knife. You have to have a vast variety on. I think probably the most versatile is probably a saison because you could get depth, even darkness, and peppery out of it, and then all the way to like bright, effervescent, spring-like, refreshing, etc. So if I had to pick a style, I'd probably rock with that one right now, and I also choose that one because it leans a little bit more toward what people want, which is spring, summer. They want liveliness again, blooming again. But outside of that, like, no, our tab lines right now are just rotating to all different styles. It's like you name it, we are throwing it on right now. Goza, wit beer, docks, doppelbox, still bringing in some like heavy hitters with barley wine. Like, you've got to be ready for basically anybody to come in and want something different than the next person who comes in. It's tough.
Yeah, and I feel I'll let you elaborate. I feel that spring is the toughest one, right? Because summer, fall. I mean, fall's kind of built in with the pumpkin and the Oktoberfest and the, you know what I mean, and the
Yeah.
seasonals, and you can let some of those stouts creep. And then you got the winter where it's pretty defined. The spring is this. I when I was preparing for you, I was like, yeah, the spring is kind of a mess.
Yeah.
So and everybody, so you can answer that one, but also too, I before you say the words, I want to kind of get out in front of you and say that
Sure.
everybody points to Maibach as the king of spring, right? So I'm sure you got some of those. But if you were trying to convert to like a stout only drinker for April, I guess you
Mm.
would go with what, Saison, right?
Yeah. No, just like you're saying, a stout drinker. Did I hear you right?
Yeah. If you're trying to convert a
Ooh.
stout only drinker, something lighter for April, but they come in and they're like, "Hey, where are my stouts?" And you're like,
Yeah.
I got some, but I also got this."
Yeah. I would go. I'm not going to steal Maibach per se, but I'm going to go with like two options. I either go with a Bach, so lighter, not still malty, right? Like, it's not as clean, crisp, light as a Maibach. Or I still think the sneaky one is a Czech dark lager because you get the lightness, drinkability, and crispness of a lager while still bringing in the like. It could be pretty roast. I've had some like fairly roasty, dry Czech dark lagers, and they've been really tasty. And I would imagine anybody who's into stouts would be like, "Oh, this is like all the flavor I like with just lighter body." And I feel like I could go into spring lighter with that attitude too. So that's my pick for converting stout drinkers is the Czech dark lager. That's the sneaky one. Otherwise, box. And when I think of box right now, I'm really impressed with the variety of flavor profiles of Box. You've got people like Hinterland doing the maple Bach, so giving classic Bach a good maple syrup sweet taste to it. And that thing just slaps. Like, we've brought it on every year. I usually get like, that's one of the few beers that I know that I'm going to order another keg of right after the first one because people are going to be demanding it back quickly.
Mm. Yeah, excellent. And I don't know, do you want to speak on the Maybach because maybe a little bit deeper because it's so popular?
Yeah, for sure. For the Maibock, you've got German lager just with a little bit more strength. It's not a Helles. It's not as uh, bitter. You've got a little bit more of like brighter but darker, like a dark brightness, which sounds like an oxymoron, but then you taste it and you're like, no, this actually makes sense. Um, it's basically got the comforting malt backbone that people like in the colder months, uh, but it's got like a snap to it that is not like something that's going to put you to sleep. It's actually something that wakes you up while still having a bit of a bit of malt character to it. Um, yeah, and you've got breweries in Wisconsin. To me, it's almost like a Oktoberfest in that everybody's got it slightly different. So this is a sweet time to go ahead and find like a mixed six pack of different Maibachs and then taste them side by side, and you'll quickly realize like, oh, just because somebody says, "Hey, do you want a Maibach?" and you're like, "Ah, I don't. Maybe I don't like Maibachs." Like, no, you probably just didn't like that one that you had. Try any of these other five different ones because they've all got a relatively directionally similar palette, but ultimately the reality sets in and they're so vastly different once you actually, pause to appreciate each sip.
Absolutely. And I will take this time to plug Badger Beer Reports, new kids on the Maibach that is being brewed at or being lagered right now at Vault 202 in Appleton and will be first released at Boulder Junction Brewing Company on Saturday, April 24th. I believe I might be wrong on that date. I know it's a Saturday, but it's made with Mount Hood hops and yeast from the Yeast Bay, and we are excited about that. That's going to be at 9 breweries that brewed their first beer last year, and some of them are going to be Mobcraft and Lombardi and Volt 202 and Tailwinds, and I'm pretty sure Garth knows about all of them, but Garth probably doesn't have access to a lot of them because they're new and self-distributing and not really near Madison. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about those on the side, but we're excited about that. That releases our Maybach release is a little bit late. We're actually releasing it in May, um, which is fun. And when traditionally Maybachs come out, but as Garth said, Maybach is almost starting to mirror, and that's a great astute point. I didn't think about it. Oktoberfest, where everybody has one, and all craft beer drinkers kind of look for one, and then the variety is there. And really, though, Garth, what really jumps off at me is the creep. There's a Maybach
Mm-hmm.
creep. I
Yeah.
saw y'all. I saw y'all releasing Maybachs in February. Was it,
Yeah.
Garth?
Yeah. Late
So you,
February. Yep.
yeah. So
Yep.
you know what style's catching on when it has that creep, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I will say the thing I do love about Maibach is most people, it seems, don't associate the month of May, as strongly with the name Maibach as they do October with Oktoberfest. Like, it's almost hearsay to have an
Mm,
Oktoberfest in November. But
mm.
dude, if I have no problem buying a half a barrel of Maibach at the end of May and putting it on tap, and people just still drink that up because they just love the impression and style of that beer. And to them, it's like it's extra cool if you could drink it in May, but it's not cool to not drink it outside of May. So that there's like a little differentiator. So I think the
Yeah.
creep factor is kind of like bi-directional. It
Mm,
creeps ahead of May,
mm,
but what
mm.
you'll find is most breweries still produce another batch in May and go and like distribute it, tap it, keep it on tap after the month of May. And there's no shame in that. There's nobody pouring beer. There's nobody discounting Maibach in June. They're still
Mhm.
just selling it. So I do like that. It's scope creep, it's beer creep, but like whatever the reverse of beer creep is, it's also that.
Right, beer extension or something. And
Yeah.
I did not come here to talk about, or we did not come here to talk about Oktoberfest. And when I talk to you in the fall, we'll talk about that. But now that it's mentioned, you are 100% correct. Right. Oktoberfest ends generally in October, y'all, and nobody really wants to drink it after that. Now, I find that very sad, Garth. Why? Because I think Oktoberfest is probably, in my opinion, one of the best styles that could go with Thanksgiving dinner, right? It just has all those notes that go with all that, the gravy and the cranberry, and it's just it's just really interesting how we drink that style. We drink it hard. We don't care if it's out in August, right? We'll just,
Mhm.
people just grab it, right? But then there's a level of like once it hits November and then that Oktoberfest thing hits, it's just, I'll let you respond to that.
No, I don't. Part of me doesn't want to touch this.
Okay. Okay. Hey, we can.
And part of me is like, you're spot on. I think here's maybe the sneaky thing I'll say about Oktoberfest is I think um, I'll put it this way: there's no checks and balances or deep regulation in what breweries name beers or promote them by style based on the ingredients um, list. So I think if you were to like analyze a lot of the maltier beers in the market outside of the Oktoberfest season, you will find not an abundance, but plenty of beers that are remarkably similar to the Oktoberfest. They're just not labeled as such. And I think
Mm.
that's probably the more crazy aspect of it. So they're not going to promote it, but they've got quite basically the similar profile to it.
Yeah, and while we're here, we've seen a massive lager renaissance. As a retailer, is it easier or harder to sell, um, you know, a perfect Helles compared to a triple hop IPA? Or are people finally paying for quality over hype ingredients? Because we see less hype ingredients in the lagers, right?
Mm, so I'd almost say no. At least from what I'm seeing, you've got the same volume of classic lagers. You've got a little bit of extra unique takes at lagers. Like I'm going to make an imperial lager or I'm going to make a dark check lager. So you're getting a little extra emphasis around the edges of a traditional lager, but you're still getting crazy hype, Dyna Boost hop, dry hops. You're still getting Italian pilsners. You're still getting all these different geographical impressions to the hop or to the pilsner profile that are flashy. New HBC Q2300188 hop in a pilsner because people are trying to be different and experimental, and they know that you could actually get the impression of this particular hop base or malt base or yeast base when you're using it in a pilsner. So I think you're actually getting more of the essence of the thing that the brewer wants you to wants to experiment with out of a pilsner than you would get in an IPA that you're mashing up with 6 other hops. You know what I mean? You can't detect the
Mhm.
Dyna Boost of a hop in a 6 hop IPA, but you can in a single hop pilsner. So I think you're seeing a lot of that hype experimentation. Maybe not hype in the consumer sense, like people aren't chasing these things, but they're being thrown in front of the consumer left and right by a multitude of breweries. And I'm here for it. I don't say that in such a way that's complaining about it. I think it's awesome. It gives people greater experience than they've historically gotten with other styles being used as the core for experiential hops or malt.
Yeah, so let's dig into prices these days. I'm gonna drop something here. Maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to do it. One of the things that Badger Beer Report is looking to do is starting to track the price of a pint in Wisconsin
Okay.
for a few reasons. But and I will stop there because I shouldn't have said that publicly because we're not ready to do it yet. But saying it publicly will put a little bit of fire under me to get this we it's actually started, but we have to still work on some few things. But one of the things that I've been finding looking into this, Garth, is that like there seems to be a high road and a low road now. There seems to be a craft beer drinker who does not care about price, and he will just go and just buy high end, the high end, whether it be stouts or IPAs, and or I did a recent tour of Door County last November, and the
Hmm.
brewers up there told me that there was no problem selling their beers at $8 a beer in the
Hmm.
summer, right? But Door County, I don't believe is real life. Respectfully to Door County, I believe it's a vacation spot, right? So when you're there, you want to just enjoy. You have a budget, or you don't have a budget, right? And you're just
Hmm.
enjoying, and you kind of understand that. Hey, I'm in Door County. It's beautiful. Food and beer are going to be great, but that doesn't work so well, I don't think, in what I call mainland Wisconsin, right?
Hmm.
Where I came back to Green Bay, and I heard, Green Bay is not that far from Door County, y'all, and as everybody knows, and I heard a little bit of a different story, right? So I don't know if what do you see on your retail side as far as some of these expensive, whether it be stouts or double IPAs, and they're more expensive because there's more ingredients and there's more labor intensive and all that, right?
Hmm.
As opposed to the loggers that are kind of sliding in. From what I've observed, a little bit lower, but not that much lower. I don't think so. I just wanted you to talk because obviously,
Yeah.
price point and buying beer and all that. You are literally at the forefront of this, for lack of
Yeah.
a better word, war. So I'm gonna shut my mic and let you go
Yeah.
on this one.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. What we see is you've got I'm gonna simplify things. There's kind of two breweries that I see when I look at distribution lists and pricing lists. I see breweries that charge what they should respectfully charge a retailer, and thus I then have to turn and reflect that purchase quantity with a certain profit margin for a consumer, and they charge that a respectful amount. And then there's breweries that uh, go larger, and that's hard because then I have to, like, I can't use my same formula for 30% or 40% profit margin on a lager because that would force me to charge $9, nine fifty or so for a lager, and that's just like that's not going to happen. The consumer's not going to purchase that. That burns trust, etc. But that ladders up of like it's not just me making that decision; it's the model, and the model is reflective of the price that is coming in. And so you then have to question why, as a brewery, pricing their lager at this capacity when another brewery making essentially the same lager uh, is pricing it otherwise. And I think challenge is really on the brewers to think through more how they could capture some efficiencies there so that they're not like they themselves aren't losing margin, and the retailer is not having to lose margin, or the consumer is not having to overpay for what shouldn't have been priced that at that point to begin with. So it's a really tough conundrum, and I find every time that I see something obnoxiously priced and I dig in and I call the distributor and ask them, why is this priced this way? And they give me an answer. And then I go to the brewery, why is this priced this way? And I get more understanding. But it just still begs the question of like, then why do it that way? If you know that this is the end result, think differently of how you're going to produce this. Maybe if this warrants you to contract it out, or it warrants you to triple batch it, or you know alternatives, or maybe the answer is just don't brew it. Like if you financially cannot sustain it and make this kind of offering down the chain, then don't do it. Stick with what you can make margin on and that there is an appetite for.
So that leads me to ask you. So then, this is a place where you pass on certain beers, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And like it's sucky too. There's some light lagers that I'd love to have because I want to support the brewery, but I'm just like I can't. I can maybe take in like two or three SKUs in our cooler, in a reaching cooler, that I'm gonna essentially like lose money on or break even. Um, I could do that as out of support and promotion of the brewery, but like I can't. That's not sustainable, and I can't scale that. I have to be incredibly picky and choosy about it. And we've
Yeah.
seen that with like it's not just pilsners either. Like we've seen that motion run through um, IPAs, and I speak more on the ones that are like not obnoxious, and we know using the newest hops that we know that they otherwise had to like pay a lot of money for. That's that part we know we're buying the novelty in it, but there's certainly a case to be made for just let's just say a traditional American IPA. There are some breweries that are pricing it like $120 a case, and other breweries that are doing like $85 a case, and that's substantial for just about the same thing. Like it
Mm,
makes you just question like what led you to have to decide to charge it this way, and might there be a problem upstream that needs a solution?
mm, mm. So shifting gears a little bit, from lighter drinking beers to NA. Non-alcoholic options aren't a trend anymore, Garth. I believe that they are a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how has adding high end NA craft changed the vibe of a bar? And are you seeing more interleaving, or I think they call it interleaving, alternating NA and alcoholic beverages more than used to?
Yeah, for sure. We see a lot of, and when we say NA beer, we almost have to include the THC offer beverages as well, because I see a rotation of folks that will drink across the three. You still have your main core that just strictly do NA beer, like that hasn't shifted just because there's um, more available quality NA beer. But we are seeing a big influx of people drinking across those three beverages in a single outing, or they'll start with an NA beer and then switch to a THC, or they'll start with a regular beer and then switch to an NA beer and then take a THC one home. We see a lot of like mixed or multi beverage consumption that route, almost regardless of quality. We've hit this pretty solid space of NA beers because there's so much requirements in the uh, like healthily producing them and mitigating bacteria infection, etc., and like disease because there's not alcohol material inside of it. Because of that level of scrutiny, sure, maybe you had some like bad tasting NA beers, but that quickly went away because they solved for the safety of them, and then they were able to invest all of their time in making them better tasting. And we've hit that. There's no bad tasting NA beer out there anymore, with the exception of maybe a couple of the very old school NA offerings by the big boys that they just
Mm.
would never change the recipe and don't intend to and don't need to.
Ah, amen to that. So, one of your favorite one of your phrases that you use that I think I've heard you say it, but my research say you do, which is stay positive. Um, and in a year that has been tough for some craft brewers, what is the one thing in the retail world now that makes it easy for you to say stay positive about the future of beer?
Anytime I'm walking through the bar and I'm not geared up in my GBB swag, and I just get to listen to people talk. Um, I think anybody that is down or has a negative outlook or gets some troubling news or has a frustration at work, like hide your brewery representation and sit down at the bar and have a beer and just listen to the people around you. Every single time I'm like, fuck, this is hard, or I don't know how I'm going to make X work, or this is really frustrating that I'm having to pay this much for loggers. Like, what the hell? Why did I do that? And then I'm sitting and I hear somebody like talk to another partner from the table of them and be like, this beer is amazing. And they have the can on the table still. And they talk about like the hop that it was dry hopped with this Pilsner. And, 20 seconds ago, I was bitching about the price of this thing. And then 20 seconds later, I'm like, oh man, this was so worth it for them to have this experience at this bar with this brewery that I love. It all becomes worth it. So that's what I'd recommend if somebody's struggling to stay positive, like go hang out with a customer or go be around customers, because that's the end person who you're serving and probably why you got into the game in the first place.
It's that human element. And on that note, y'all, we were going to conclude this segment. Garth, can you tell me, give us a little bit about what's going on at your brew bar?
Yeah, we are shaking things up with a lot of different trivias lately and experimenting with some different events in the evenings. So I'd say keep an eye on the IG, the Instagram for news and updates there. And then we have a beer release coming up. We got to do a beer collab with Half Acre. We've got the Italian Pilsner, the Italian Stallion, going to get launched here in the next week. And
good meme.
Yeah, that's the fun stuff right now. A few beer tenders and I went down, got to brew at Half Acre, and super exciting. So that's what to look forward to near term.
And where can we find you physically and online?
Online, just Google Garth or Brew Bar Madison. There's not too many of us in the area, so just do that, or garthsbrewbar.com. And then physically, I'm all around, man. I've been doing a lot of, you mentioned earlier in the cast here about your collab beer and breweries self-distributing and not working with big distributors. I've put more miles on my vehicle getting kegs, returning kegs in the last few months here than I have previous months. So I'm hauling, man. I'm all over the place, all over Wisconsin and Midwest.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll be more specific. Where exactly is Garth Brew Bar? And within for example, if somebody does not know, where exactly are y'all located? And what does that look like?
1726 Monroe Street, across from Orange Tree Imports, downtown Madison, a few blocks away from Camp Randall. Can't miss us if we're on your Google Maps.
Well, thank you, Garth, for another edition, and we will talk to you soon.
Appreciate y'all, man. Catch you soon.